Rick, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for today.
Good morning, Keith. Good to see you.
Thank you. I was listening to Michael Singer today, and I kind of came up with a title inspired by one of his talks. And this talk is going to be titled, Is it Personal Growth or Ego Growth? And when I'm referring to personal growth, I'm thinking about that part of you, the consciousness within. When I'm thinking about the ego, I'm thinking about it's your psyche, which is comprised of your personal mind and your heart, with all the things that have happened that influence how you move through life right now, whether it's holding on to the past, uh, being ruminating in the present, and being anxious about the future, and all the things that come into play when you look at it in that context. And what I after reflecting on my own life when I was pursuing self-help for personal growth, what I found was there's a lot of personal development or personal growth out there, and I don't think that's the correct name for it. I think the correct name for it is really ego growth, and most of it's all the same stuff, just with just different ways of doing it, which comes down in my mind about manipulating or trying to control people or situations to get to get what you want. And when you think about books, the what is it? I can't get the title about, but correct about how to know and influence people. What is that about? you know, it's I think about one book that I read when I was in college that I really liked a lot was called Awaken the Giant Within, which was by Tony Robbins. I read this and it got me on a path, and I thought it was the greatest thing that I ever read. But really, what it got me on the path was an amplified, accelerated striving to get the trappings of life, right? It just really struck at my ego. Like nothing that I read back then was about letting all of that go, so that my consciousness could really be to be unencumbered and free of all of the barriers that I'd had consciously and unconsciously put into place that really separated me from the reality of life, separated me from growing and deepening my consciousness. So I think about all that stuff out there, Rick, and it just leads to more suffering. And when I listen to it now, and I listen to here are the 5 things you need to know as a human being, or here are the 10 top 10 things you need to do to be successful in life, or here's what you need to do to have the right marriage, and here's what you need to do to attract the right mate. And no, what you need to do is let go of you. And then everything, and then whatever happens, you don't care. Like you really don't care because you just here to experience whatever shows up. How cool would that be? I mean, that'd be amazing. And so I just think about all those books that I read, they were not about personal growth or personal development. They were about growing my ego. And let me tell you, they did their job. They did their job. My ego grew so big, and I was really developing this high skill set about how to present myself that people find me inspiring, and they like me and they want like all those things. And then when something happens and they change their mind and they don't like me anymore, I can't handle it. Like I'm upset about it. And that was because I didn't know that all my behaviors, the way I was dressing, the way I was speaking, all the things that I was doing, like it was all made up because there was something inside of me wrong. Like I didn't
Mhm.
wake up, I didn't come out, when I could first understand concepts, say, you know what? I want to be an engineer. No, that's not why I chose to go to school for engineering. I chose to go to school for engineering because it's like, what's something I can do that takes the least amount of school time, that's respected and will make the maximum amount of money. Like, okay, why do you want the money? So I can have a nice area, live in a nice area, get a nice car, hang around certain people, be attracted to certain, like, it's all about like what I want, like what I, need or think I need to feel fulfilled. And the wise person just wakes up one day and they don't play that game anymore. It's like, I want to be fulfilled however life shows up. What's the best way to do that? Oh, let go of me. let go of the little me. And so, Rick, what are your thoughts?
Well, that's it. It's a great topic. Yeah, great topic. I think we confuse personal growth with ego growth. And the big distinction that I notice is that the ego growth usually does not encompass failure. It does not encompass dealing
Oh,
with failure very well.
mm,
It just has you try harder on the things that the ego let you down in the first place. To give an example, I had one this week that I got a kick out of. One of my cases went south, and I had some adverse rulings, and basically I lost this particular case on a theory that I thought was strong, and the judge didn't. And the judge, my opinion doesn't account, hers does. But anyway, the point is that that's an opportunity at that point to double down, where you carry on a campaign of how this other person could have done better, didn't think properly. It's the judge's fault. I mean, obviously, my case is better. Go through all of the things that the ego tells you to do. Um, and even if it's justified, or even if there is some grain of truth to it, that kind of ego behavior is not going to result in any kind of personal growth. The ego is always about maximizing the value to you. It's not about the bigger picture. The personal growth has a lot to do with failure, causing you to re-examine what you did and why you did it.
yes,
That self-monitoring is something that's very underestimated in the West. We look at the badges of what our ego brings us, the Mercedes, the mansion, lots of dough in the bank, pretty wife, all of those. Those are the badges that the West is all about. But there's a cost to that, as you point out, and it's a lack of consciousness that gets in the way of who you are as a human being.
hmm,
And I think that we're a little schizophrenic because, on the one hand, I think people down deep know that. I think we all know that we are enough, or that I have enough, or that I have traveled enough, or I've done enough. But they're uncomfortable with it because there's this concept in the West of wanting more. It's like capitalism. Capitalism is based entirely on growth, 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 growth. Well, is there a limit to growth? Maybe we're seeing the start of that now. I don't want to get political, but I'm just saying there's an idea about ego that is inherently adverse to, in conflict with humanity, with our own personal humanity.
yes,
And much of what I think we need to experience in this consciousness sense is the realization that failure, our dark side, things that we don't like to talk about, are all part of the reality that each of us is in. And if we accept that, you can look at life in a completely different way, and I think a much healthier way. So for me, personal growth, hard as it is to admit, personal growth means, yes, I failed, and I failed for a good reason. And those reasons have nothing to do with the law. The reasons have to do with recognizing that in some areas I'm going to fail, and
yes,
that's totally okay. Failure is part of it.
right.
It's all okay. And I don't need to be, masking myself and um, trying to provide an excuse, because that's what the ego does to protect. Instead, it's just that accept and move on, learn the lesson, whatever that lesson may be. It's a little bit of an odd example because the law is a zero-sum game and life isn't. But the failure that you have in life, whether it be with a relationship, or maybe it will be with a career choice that you don't like, or something that you said that you wish you could recant, but you can't. All of those things that are there, that are kind of failure oriented, those things have the lessons. And the idea is not to try to cover it up, and to put a spin on it so you look good. It's to accept whatever that lesson was, to try to learn, and to try to become fully aware of and accepting of our entire consciousness.
Rick, I love that. I love the idea of the failure part of it. Um, because if you stay with it, if you allow it to be, if you honor it, that's where the growth is. Is
That's
right.
right.
That is where the growth is. That is letting go of that part of you that doesn't want to see that, that doesn't want to experience that. But that's a part of you that will literally not only run your life, but ruin it. Will become a limitation to you getting more conscious, waking up. Is beautiful. And I think about this idea that of personal growth, you know, versus ego growth, is that for all the years that I pursued this ego growth in the form of self-help books and all these ways to do this and, achieve and strive and become a better whatever, nothing to do with the consciousness. It's about all these like uh skills of it. When I think of it, like I do think skills, not skills that serve a purpose for the benefit of others, in their totality. But those skills that, I mean, you can massage the context of it and make it, well, I'm doing this for other people. Well, what happens if that fails? Do you feel a loss of yourself? Do you like that's when you know whether or not your your intention what's the honest intention? How do you feel when it doesn't go well? Right? So you get in a relationship or you get married and it doesn't go well. How do you know your intentions are well? When you can accept that, hey, this has come to an end. Like I'm grateful for every single moment of it, you know, and hopefully you grew along the way. And I did not do that when I think many times in my life when I was on that was on that those self-help book track and the ego track, and I was on all those things, um, where it was all about, again, all the things that I said about the striving piece of it, because I suffered every single minute along the way. I think back in Yuma, when I was just couldn't put the Tony Robbins Awaken the Giant book down. It had like worksheets in the book. I'm writing it all out, mapping my life out, mapping it out. You mean making it up? Yeah, I was just making it all up, with this, and life is going to, conform in a way to support this. I was doing all that, Rick. I was miserable the whole time, miserable the whole time. And when I got on this other path, the path that you showed me, when I got on that path, man, every time I let go, I did the work. I experienced my mind resist. I observed my heart react, and I let those things pass. Every time I did that, on the other side of that, man, I just felt amazing because that thing that had held me hostage of wanting to be liked, avoiding looking bad, all those things. When I let those things go, Rick, it was liberation, man. I'm like, that's never going to control me again. I mean, to put that down once and for all, Rick, you know how fantastic that is? It's amazing. But if you don't put that down, then what will happen is you will be at the mercy of whether you will be doing a song and dance to uphold the facade that you got it all together. Wow. Wow. So Rick, thank you so much, man. I can just say in my life that for quite a few decades, I was on that ego growth plan. And since I switched up to the personal growth, man, I have peace, inner peace.
What a path, Keith. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Great, Keith. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. I love you.
I love you, buddy. Adios.
Adios.